Meghan's panicking, and here's why. Something doesn't add up about Archie's birth certificate. In the UK, standard procedure always includes the mother's full name on these documents. But for Archie, something weird happened. Media published his certificate right after birth. Rachel Meghan Markle, clear as day. Then days later, her name completely erased. Only Her Royal Highness remains. She might have thought it looked more royal, more formal, but that single change can erase Archie from the line of succession. And the receipts proving what really happened are surfacing now. What we're about to uncover goes way deeper than anyone imagined, because when you start pulling at this thread, the entire story unravels. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to see Meghan Markle in a completely different light. Let's start with what should have been straightforward. In the UK, when a baby is born, there's a legal process that's been standard for generations. The birth has to be registered. A certificate is issued. That document almost always includes the full legal names of both parents. And for the mother, her maiden name is included if she is or has been married. This isn't some outdated tradition, it's legal protocol. So when Archie Harrison Mountbatten-Windsor was born on May 6, 2019, his birth certificate followed the exact same protocol. The document listed his father as His Royal Highness Henry Charles Albert David, Duke of Sussex, with his occupation as Prince of the United Kingdom. Nothing unusual there. And for the mother, Rachel Meghan Markle, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, with Markle listed as her maiden name. Again, completely standard. This is what the media published. This is what the public saw. Everything appeared normal. But then, something strange happened. Just days after that certificate went public, it got altered. And we're not talking about a minor correction or a spelling fix. We're talking about a complete erasure of identity. Rachel Meghan, those two names, completely removed. What remained? Just Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. No personal name, no maiden name in the usual spot, just a title. The modification note at the bottom of the certificate tried to make it seem routine. It stated that in one section, the name was corrected from Rachel Meghan Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex to simply Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Corrected, that's the word they used. As if her own name was somehow an error that needed fixing. As if being called Rachel Meghan was a mistake. Think about how bizarre that is. Your child's birth certificate, one of the most important legal documents in their life, and you're erasing your own identity from it. Now, Meghan's team had an explanation ready. They claimed the palace forced this change. They said it was done to match protocol, to make things more formal, to align with royal standards. But here's where that story falls apart completely. If this was really about protocol, why didn't it happen with any other royal birth? And here's what makes this even more suspicious. Birth certificates aren't just ceremonial documents, they're legal proof of identity and lineage. In the UK, having your name on your child's birth certificate establishes your legal relationship to that child. It's how parental rights work. It's how succession gets determined. It's how inheritance flows. These documents matter in ways most people don't even think about. So when you remove a mother's actual name and replace it with just a title, you're creating a legal gray area that shouldn't exist. Think about what a title actually represents. It's not a personal identifier, it's a position. Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex isn't a person, it's a role. And roles can change. Roles can be stripped away. If Meghan and Harry ever lost their titles, which has been discussed more than once, what happens to that birth certificate? Does it suddenly show no mother at all? Does Archie's maternal lineage just disappear? And that's where the story takes a darker turn. In the British system, succession to the throne is determined by bloodline. It's not determined by titles or positions. It's determined by documented lineage. Who your parents are matters. Who your grandparents are matters. This is why birth certificates are so important for royals. They're legal proof of family connection. They establish your place in the line of succession. They verify your claim to royal status. When you're seventh in line to the throne, like Archie is supposed to be, your birth certificate isn't just a piece of paper. It's a constitutional document. It's proof that you are who you claim to be. It's evidence of your legitimate place in the royal family. So when the maternal side of that documentation becomes questionable, when the mother's actual legal identity gets erased and replaced with just a title, it creates problems. Real problems. Legal experts have started quietly discussing this. They're not making headlines about it, but because it's sensitive and complicated. But behind closed doors, questions are being raised. If Meghan's legal name doesn't appear on Archie's birth certificate, does that properly establish maternal lineage? If she's only listed by title, and that title could theoretically be revoked, what happens to Archie's documented connection to the royal family? These aren't civil questions. These are constitutional issues that have never come up before. because no royal has ever done something this unprecedented. And here's the kicker. Meghan knew how important these documents were. She knew the protocol. She knew what every other royal mother had done. She had access to advisors, to legal experts, to people who could have explained all of this. But she did it anyway. She altered that certificate shortly after Archie's birth, removing her own identity, replacing it with a title that makes her seem more important but actually creates legal ambiguity about her son's maternal lineage. The timing matters too. This happened right when Meghan and Harry were starting to pull away from royal duties. Right when tensions with the palace were escalating. Right when they were planning their exit to North America. Some people think Meghan was trying to make a statement, trying to assert her royal status, trying to prove she was more than just an actress who married a prince. But what she actually did was create documentation that could potentially be used to question her son's position in the line of succession. Think about how the royal family has responded to all of this. They haven't. There's been complete silence from the palace about the birth certificate alteration. No official statement, no explanation, no clarification. And that silence is deafening, because the palace comments on all sorts of things. They release statements about minor issues all the time. But on this, nothing. Why? Because there's no good way to address it without admitting something went very wrong. If the palace admits they forced the change, they're acknowledging they created a legal problem with a royal birth certificate. If they deny forcing the change, they're basically confirming Meghan did this on her own, which raises even more questions about her judgment and understanding of royal protocol. So they've chosen to say nothing. They've let this controversy simmer. And that strategy works as long as nobody looks too closely at the legal implications. But people are looking now. Royal commentators are starting to discuss this more openly. Legal analysts are examining the precedent, or rather, the complete lack of precedent for what Meghan did. Constitutional experts are considering what this means for succession law. Because if you can just erase your legal name from your child's birth certificate and replace it with a title, what does that mean for establishing legitimate royal lineage? What does that mean for other royals who might try to do something similar in the future? And Meghan can't use her usual excuse here. She can't claim she didn't know how things worked. She can't say she was new to royal life and made an innocent mistake. Because by the time Archie was born, she'd been part of the royal family for over a year. She'd been married to Harry for a year. She'd been receiving guidance and advice from experienced royal staff. She knew the protocol. She just chose to ignore it. This is the same woman who spent years complaining about how the palace treated her, how they didn't support her, how they didn't protect her from media scrutiny. But when you look at her actual behavior, when you see what she did with Archie's birth certificate, a different picture emerges. A picture of someone who was willing to manipulate situations to her advantage, who was willing to lie under oath, who was willing to create legal ambiguity around her own son's royal status, all to make herself seem more important. The receipts don't lie. The altered birth certificate exists. This isn't speculation or tabloid gossip. These are documented facts. And when you put all these facts together, when you see the pattern of behavior, when you recognize how Meghan operates, the birth certificate alteration starts making perfect sense. She thought removing her common name and keeping just her royal title would elevate her status. She thought it would make her seem more legitimate, more royal, more important. But what she actually did was create a situation where her son's maternal lineage isn't properly documented according to standard royal protocol. She created a situation where legal experts are now questioning the validity of Archie's position in the line of succession. She created a problem that didn't need to exist, all because she was more concerned with how things looked than with how they actually functioned legally. And the worst part, she can't undo this without admitting she made a massive mistake. She can't go back and restore her name to that birth certificate without everyone asking why it was removed in the first place. She's trapped by her own decision. And as more people become aware of this, as more legal experts examine the implications, as more questions get raised about Archie's documented royal lineage, Meghan has to live with the consequences of choosing appearance over substance. The palace knows all of this. They've known from the beginning. That's why they've been silent. They're watching Meghan deal with the fallout of her own choices. They're letting her face the questions and the scrutiny and the legal complications she created. Because they warned her. The staff warned her. The protocol experts warned her. But she did it anyway, and now she has to live with it. This is why Meghan's panicking. Because the receipts are out there, the evidence is public, The legal implications are becoming impossible to ignore. She thought she was making herself look more royal, more important, more elevated. What she actually did was create the biggest documentation controversy in modern royal history. And unlike her media manipulation schemes, unlike her carefully crafted public image, unlike her ability to spin narratives, she can't talk her way out of this one. The birth certificate exists. The alteration is documented. The questions about succession are legitimate. And every time someone looks at that certificate, every time a legal expert examines the precedent, every time a constitutional scholar considers the implications, those questions get louder. What was Meghan thinking? Why did she do this? What are the real consequences for Archie's royal status? And most importantly, what does this tell us about Meghan's true priorities and her complete lack of understanding about what she was actually doing? The truth is finally coming out, and Meghan Markle has nobody to blame but herself. So what do you think? Did Meghan drop her name to look more royal, or is there more to it? Tell me in the comments. If this opened your eyes, hit like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next big reel.